The world of books is something that I've always been into. I love to read, more so than a lot of other things, and I've got several authors that I do my best to always check out whenever they release a new story in their series, with Jim Butcher of the Dresden fame being the one I follow the most these days. And while it's not something I can really easily talk about on YouTube, if only because of the lack of visual representation and the fact that I'm not an artist, there is one movie that I felt like did a good job in showing off how fun a good book can be, and I questioned why it never became a TV show. Note the past tense in questioned as, well, I found out why, and I'm gonna explain it as I go over the movie of the Pagemaster. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am your ever-friendly Pokeprof, and welcome back to Fascinating Fiction. Made back in 1994 was a movie that starred good old Macaulay Culkin as a young, timid boy who was afraid of just about everything. After being convinced by his father to go get some supplies from the local hardware store, he ends up getting stuck into a library after being driven in by a storm. There he meets a rather wild librarian played by the always fantastic Christopher Lloyd, who tries to encourage him to check out a book, while Culkin's character is just there to find a phone to call his parents. On the way to the phone, he slips on the wet floor and gets isekai'd into an animated world. I love the fact that he even registers this.
I'm a cartoon.
After this, he must journey through the library and encounter fictional characters and events from a bunch of literary classics, while partying along with 3 actual books given life, named after their respective genres: adventure, fantasy, and horror, who just wish to be checked out and explore the world outside of the library. Oh, and yeah, the books themselves are played by Patrick Stewart, Whoopi Goldberg, and Frank Walker. So yeah, there's a lot of big names that went into this film. The movie itself isn't the best in the world, I'll fully admit it, but its central idea had a lot of merit about a young boy who was going through and learning to be a bit braver and survive the dangerous world portrayed in some of these classics. For a lot of kids, myself included, this was our first introduction to things like Moby Dick, Dr. Jekyll, and Long John Silver, and I know there's more than a few who went on to actually read the books that they came from after seeing the movie itself. But let's get to the original point that I had for this video, and that's the fact that while I do think the movie itself is decent, even if it was a box office failure, you know where I actually see the concept here working the best? As a Saturday morning cartoon. Seriously, think of it like this. Instead of having only a scant few minutes to hang out and deal with these well-known characters of literature, you make it a full half-hour or more episode where the main characters gotta go through an adventure dealing with these characters that allows you to not only develop them a little bit further, but also develop the main character himself. And it allows you to play with the ideas and events from the story. You could have him help Dr. Jekyll with his other half, or show the softer side of Long John Silver that he had for Jim Hawkins, or the outright insanity that is Wonderland. It's a wonder why this idea hasn't really been explored before as a cartoon for kids, or if it has, one that hasn't really taken off, because I think it would be a really good way to introduce some of the classics to a new generation. And that was the original video idea, about exploring what a possible series like this could have looked like. And this was originally planned to come out last week. But then I found out during my research why it could have never happened, at least with the Pagemaster, and here's the reasons why. Initial apologies for mispronouncing names aside, the original script for the Pagemaster was written by David Kosky, who in turn had written the story based on a 6-page script by Charles Progue called Library Days. Apparently, the producer of the Pagemaster, one David Krishner, attempted to claim the fact that he was the only one who had wrote the original story. As far as I've understood things about how it was handled, apparently when it comes to the credits of a written film, it's sent over to the Writers Guild of America long before the movie itself actually comes out, or anything of the movie is coming out as well, such as posters or novelizations. When it comes to the Pagemaster in particular, though, Krishner basically tried to say that now that the film was largely animated, that the Writers Guild had no say in what was actually put into the credits. This eventually blew up into a huge legal battle when Fox decided to back up the producer while the Guild was originally backing Kasky. Eventually, it was settled out of court, with Fox putting both the producer and original writer's names on the credits, with a third writer being added in as well. Basically, from something that went through this much trouble just to get the credits right on a movie, I can only guess of how bad a TV series would have been. That said, I feel like the idea still has some merit of a young character going through different literary classics and getting to experience those stories. Expose them to a new generation. Just the kind of thing that would be a bit of fun, I think. And before we end off things here, I'd like to thank everyone for the 100 subs to the channel. That's actually quite amazing that we've been able to do that. Sure, we didn't have some of the insane growth that you would see on some other channels, but it's been steady, and I'm grateful for all of you wanting to hang out with a nerd like me to talk about different subjects I'm interested in. As before, if there's something you think I should talk about, or you want to share something that you want to see my thoughts on, put it down in the comments and I'll give it a look. But there's also one other thing I've got to note before we end things off today. Sadly, real life has kind of been rough for my family and I. You may have noticed that it has been 2 weeks since the last video, and if I miss anything, it's usually only by a week. I'm not going to go too much into the specifics, but the long and short of it is that I'm going to have to get a day job. Something I have not had since, well, the sickness that shall not be named by YouTube became a thing. I'm not sure how badly this will affect the content schedule since I've only just got a potential interview lined up, but I ask you all to please be patient with me as I figure out how to balance doing these videos alongside a day job. With luck, there should be no impact, but I want y'all to stay updated. Till next time, though, stay frosty.